Direm Yolok, and welcome to hell. This is Agdistis. She turned herself into a tree. Oh my god! Unfortunately, that's where the humor ends. For reasons that will become all too apparent, progging P7S in the party finder was absolutely miserable. This fight sucks. The pacing is wooden, the mechanics are boring, the enrage is painful, it's all bad. The eventual triumph was much more of a relief than a joy. But after watching this, you may have a better experience. My name's Vera, and I'm here to show you how to slash and burn in 15 minutes or less. There's a little bit more than usual to set up. First, cross-roll partners on corners, supports with DPS, similar to Hegemony. These are tower spreads. Next, light parties for your typical healer stacks. You'll also want spread assignments for purgation. Grab a spot that isn't 2. That's going to be the stack point. Finally, if you're doing Far War, as you should be, assign cross-roll partners in a line with tanks and melee taking the middle 2. You may notice that these markers are outside the initial arena. You can't place them on your own without third-party tools, so you need to get them from another player. Square had a cow over this, banned the brave soul responsible, and Japanese data centers are still having an existential crisis over their existence. They call them DAPPOU MAAKAA. Markers which evade the law, and they will frequently leave the group if they're placed and mass report the person responsible for wrecking honor.
You have no honor, and you are a slave to it.
However, in more reasonable cultures, they're perfectly safe to use, won't cause any autistic drama, and you're really going to want them. Make sure to save them and spread them far and wide. The first thing you need to know is that, like the Phoenix, Agdistis will melee the 2 highest threat targets each time. If a tank dies at any point, you'll be in danger of losing a DPS as well, and you almost certainly will if any other damage is going out. Reviving tanks need to match their provoke key like lives depend on it. Because they do. You'll get your usual raidwide, Spark of Life, but this one's a bit different. It also applies a bleed that ticks for about 15k. All of these need high mitigation with strong follow-up healing over time. Litany of the Bell finally has a use case. White mages rejoice. Afterwards, an AERO tankbuster. Like Hegemony, there are 2 variants, condensed and dispersed, but unlike P6, these are randomized from the start of the fight. Tanks stack for condensed and spread for dispersed. Immuning condensed is a good play, but only up to a point. I'll let you know when that is. Both variants create very large AoEs, so tanks need to make sure they're out in Africa when they come out throughout the fight. Finally, they also leave a dot. This, plus the double auto attacks, which hurt, plus the bleed from the raidwides, means tanks will need much more upkeep than usual. Healers need to pay close attention to this and not let them fall over. Now, 3 EXAFLARES will appear and Agdistis will prepare to break the platform. Move up towards the larger gap and chill on the edge. Once you land, hang out on the red DAPPOU MAAKAA and wait for the flares to pass. Side note here, like all wall bosses, her model is deceptive. She actually exists right here in front of this bridge. Make sure to face this point at all times. Don't miss a single GCD, it actually matters. Pre-position on said bridge when it's safe. Forbidden Fruit spawns a bunch of critters in specific patterns, but their orientation is randomized. This first one is just a couple birds and a bull, which behave as they do on normal mode. Go away from the bull and get ready for light party stacks. Group 1 in front, 2 in back. The birds will cross and make an X on your platform, but you get a second to adjust to them. While this happens, the boss will slam the far platform for absolutely no reason. She's flexing or something, I don't know. It will hit the very back of Group 2's safe zone, so avoid the far edge. Once this resolves, move to the back platform. Tanks will stay behind to handle a random tankbuster and catch up for a Spark of Life. Inviolate bonds will hook you up with a round of debuffs. These are super simple to understand. Red means spread, blue means stack. If you're not spread, you're necessarily stacked, so whoever actually has blue is completely irrelevant. So just ignore it and focus on red. Red 1 players will spread out on this back platform while everyone else stacks in the middle. You have entirely too long to do so. The tree will slam the front 2 platforms as everyone explodes. Again, avoid taking the tip. Then she'll telegraph a scoop completely copied from normal mode. Simply run to the other platform, red 2 spreads out, everyone else, middle. She'll now break the front bridge. Again, no real reason, limit testing or something, who knows. This doesn't affect a thing. Fall back to the far platform while the tanks handle another buster. Fruit 2 puts down more birds that will make more X-shaped patterns. Next up is a knockback into spread AoEs. Press your immunity 1 GCD after the telegraph as per usual. At this time, Group 1 will move to the northwest platform. You can easily fit 6 players on one platform, but you all need to move sooner or later, so might as well be now. Group 2 can just stay and chill, but I've noticed for some ungodly reason that a lot of people like moving up here. I don't know why, and it triggers me to no end, but if your healer wants to go on an adventure, you have no choice but to follow them. Now that she knows she can, she'll break the other bridges. One wonders why she waited so long, but plants aren't exactly known for their cognitive abilities. Fruit 3 will put bulls on all 3 platforms, cornering you. You'll also get light party stacks at the same time for good measure. This would be the end, but your boy La Habrea will bail you out and summon a bridge, which is actually kind of cool. Step forward right as you see it spawn to avoid the bull, but not so far that you risk overlapping stacks. Don't be late. That would just be...
pathetic.
If you died and got rezzed on the wrong platform, or zoned out from sheer boredom and missed your group, there is just enough time to sprint all the way back into position before the stacks go off. It's tight, but doable. Normal mode will return with another slam and scoop with 0 complicating mechanics. This is actually aggravating. Even Sheila didn't have a 1-to-1 copy pasta like this. Even frickin' Eric, for that matter. Give your tank some space for the follow-up buster, and pinch yourself if you're falling asleep. Fruit 4 has... holy shit, it's something different. It's a Christmas miracle. You've got 2 brand new minotaurs and a bull on the platforms, and a different type of minotaur in the middle. This bull is special. It's gonna roll tether to half the raid and fire decently wide line AoEs at each of you. Just spread out around it to bait the lines into space and give tanks and melee the closer spots for uptime. The platform minotaurs will proximity tether to a player and fire a cone at them. Stretch these all the way behind each other. The farther the better. Finally, the middle minotaur will target the 2 closest players and telegraph cones in their direction. You can walk out of these easily enough. If you don't get tethered by anything, your job is to bait this guy out into space opposite the bull and quickly step through him to avoid the damage. Since that didn't work, Agdistis will do her best to set up another checkmate with a knockback into light party stacks with incoming EXAFLARES. Impossible to handle, but your groupies will rebuild the big platform right before they hit. Save your immunity and just take the free ride with your light party. Group 1 southwest, Group 2 southeast. There's more than one way to dodge the flares, but most people just rotate north about 90 degrees. Quickly group up towards the south to give the tank space for another buster. This is when you need to stop immuning condensed. You're gonna need it later. Find a good time in your rotation to use your second potion as soon as you can. Triple potting for this fight is highly advised. Fruit 5 will spawn 4 birds and 4 towers. If the boss is significantly above 50% here on a clean pull, you don't have the damage and should probably just disband the group, especially if you don't need practice and are looking to clear. It's just a waste of time to bang your head against a boss that you don't have the throughput for. I've seen some real animals in the party finder, and with each inspection, I become more toxic. Why is he fucking pentamelded but has nothing in his chest piece? Are you serious? What? How does this make sense? Who is this guy? Oh my god, he melds piety! No! I'm stuck in hell. You're not an Asphodelos anymore, and believe it or not, you actually have to meld your gear and pump numbers. Anyway, birds will tether to and charge supports or DPS, leaving the other role to soak the tower closest to their corner assignment. It's wise to take the tethers to the other side of the platform to not risk poor aim and running them over a tower. Even though they behave differently, they will still knock back whatever they hit, so don't forget your knockback immunity. Pop it when you see the ball start to come down, and don't be late. This game can be rather frustrating with its knockback snapshotting. Mitigate another raidwide, heal the bleed, and run out for the incoming platform smash. Your 2 minutes will be coming up, but make sure to hold them. You'll lose 3 whole seconds of that buff window if you pull the trigger immediately, and you won't get an extra use out of it, so blow your load when you land. Fruit 6 only decides the starting point for the upcoming big mechanic. Just move to the front platform without a bull. Inviolate purgation is supposed to be challenging, but what we call the sleepo strat combined with our illegal markers has made it a hell of a lot easier than it was doubtless intended to be. You're gonna get 2 rounds of the debuff set from earlier for a total of 4 sets of explosions. There is also a catch. You leave behind some delayed but very large AoEs when you blow up. The blue stack debuff leaves a slightly larger AoE, but it's got a hole in the middle. What you're probably supposed to do is stack on the southern platform in the same place every time, while the spreads run between the northern 2 every round. But it turns out, if you put the stack on the very edge of the room on the yellow markers, there's more than enough space to keep everyone together and simply go forward and back. With the amount of damage that's about to come out, you really don't want to do this any other way. Stack on yellow if you're not about to blow up, and on your assigned space if you are. The first middle spread player will have to cozy up to a bird. It will clip the middle pixel, so be right behind it. It's not a super precise position, but you do have to get all up in them tail feathers. Then cross the room and repeat 3 times. Whichever melee is further down the totem pole should LB3 no later than the second round. While you're running around, the tree will throw out 2 raid wides, one after the second explosion and one after the fourth. And yes, this includes that bleed. This section of the fight is very healing intensive with a lot of movement that makes recovery difficult. DPS need to contribute to the mitigation however they can. That means Feint and Addle for the second and fourth explosions to mitigate both it and the follow-up raidwide, bloodbath, second wind, personal shields, whatever you can do it. Before we move on, I'd like to take a moment to honor the brave soul who sacrificed his life for the sake of our poor, smooth brains in the Party Finder. I would not want to see what this mechanic looks like in a pug without his DAPPOU MAAKAA. Let there be a moment of silence for our nameless hero. Never shall we know his identity, for in his infinite humility he deigned not take credit for his divine actions. Though he now resides in the halls of Valhalla, he will be remembered forever and ever as the savior and based king that he was. Amen. Fruit 7 just features 2 birds. Go to the birdless platform. The middle bridge is gonna get busted again after you do. Everyone will get pursuit markers, which will be dropped, you guessed it, on yellow. If you're sick of it by now, this is the last time, I promise. Bridges to the other platforms are gonna spawn and you're gonna run away in the direction that isn't gonna get you run over by a turkey. Now, after 9 whole minutes of mind-numbingly boring normal mode mechanics, we get to the hard shit. The harvests are a series of 3 much tougher back-to-back fruit combinations. Famine is arguably the hardest. 6 minotaurs and a couple birds will spawn in. 4 minotaurs are the tether variety, but the 2 that spawn on their own with no bird beside them will do the baited cones. Identify and move towards these 2 as they spawn. Being late to this pair is disastrous, so you need to pre-position. If you don't get a tether, sprint as fast as you can between them and bait their cones out into space. The very instant you see their telegraph, book it to one of these 2 safe zones that the birds will leave as they cross your platform. You really do have to be fast here. There's like barely enough time. Tethered players will of course stretch them to the other platform, but will need to cross the streams to give each other enough space. They will then stand directly behind the other minotaur. 2 of them will need to cozy right up to a bird to avoid being smushed. Shimmy right into this little corner, as close as you can. This is absolutely crucial. If you're both on the far side of the bird, you're almost certainly going to hit each other, and since there's no indicator on the tethered cleaves, you're gonna wonder why you died and keep making that same mistake. This, more than anything else, bottlenecked me getting the kill. Please, 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 if you take nothing else from this guide, make sure that you learn how to position this tether correctly.
Look at that, entire fucking group's dead again!
Death's Harvest has a pretty cool positioning that always works. Japan figured this out, so the strat is called JP Braindead Death. 1 regular bull will be on a platform, and you'll use it to orient yourselves. Each light party, minus the tanks, will go to the other 2 platforms. Some parties call the bull relative south, some are weird and say relative north. This can change where you go, so pay attention to that when you join the group. If you're in doubt, just follow your healer. DPS will position in line with the bridge, with the healer being on the opposite side, like so. This is because the other 2 bulls on the bridges will randomly tether to everyone, creating 2 possible outcomes. This positioning magically satisfies both at once. The tanks will hug, stand on whichever bridge doesn't have a bull on it, and pop their invulnerabilities to survive. War's Harvest, unfortunately, has 2 popular strategies for dealing with it. You'll see plenty of both, so I'll cover the 2, even though one is clearly better. I'll start with my favorite, Far War. A bull, 2 birds, and 2 minotaurs will spawn and they'll all shoot out tethers. Everyone basically goes to the other side of the room. Bird people chill on the opposing bridge, don't forget your knockback immunity. Minotaurs, the far edge of the opposing platform, but the bull people have to spread out in their assigned line across the room. Tanks and melee will be on the bridge to avoid possibly losing uptime, and should be right about here, away from the ends, but not close enough to hit each other. This gives the ranged or healers more breathing room. The other strat is called INUMARU, and I hate it for a very specific reason. The bull is handled normally, and the birds just need to be pointed away. I suggest handling them just like Far, on the bridges. It won't screw anything up, and it's just safer than positioning them away on a platform like you'll see in various diagrams. The problem lies in the minotaurs. You only have enough room to run to the edge of a neighboring platform, which isn't far enough to satisfy the tether. You'll get hit for a little over 80,000 damage. This is obviously lethal if you have no way to save yourself. As a Dragoon, I have no way to save myself and must rely on someone else to mitigate the hit for me. Dying to this tether through no fault of your own is intensely frustrating, and any player who can't save themselves is obviously going to much prefer Far War. INUMARU seems to be the more popular strat, much to my dismay, but I think Far War isn't going anywhere anytime soon. There is no Pestilence's Harvest because this entire fight is a pestilence. A raidwide will follow hot on the heels of War's Harvest. Pour all available mitigation into this one to recover. It's the last dangerous part of the fight. It's now basically over. Focus on your rotation and pump, pump, pump. Light party stacks with literally nothing else, followed by yet another normal mode slam and scoop. Turn 3 Savage, by the way. Dodge it and remain where you end up to group heal through back-to-back raid wides. Don't forget to pot up for your last 2-minute burst window. And then you'll get the hardest mechanic of all, the Enrage. I'm not kidding. With the lack of buff coordination in the party finder and unreliability of randoms, this Enrage is actually pretty tight and demands clean execution. Chances are you'll only be able to afford 2 deaths in the entire fight. And with the first 9 minutes putting people to sleep, it's pretty likely that you're gonna have at least 2 on the harvests. Pump as hard as you can, carry those slackers, and chop, chop, chop. Timber! Please let it be over. I'm not even looking at the boss's health. Please! Yes! I'm free! Never felt like that playing this fucking game before, man. What a miserable experience. Never make a fight like this again. If you want to backload a fight, at least make the rest of it fun, man! It's fucking boring, dude! Waste your fucking time and then it kills you and you do it again. You're not even engaged, so by the time you get to the hard part, you're fucking zoned out! Mind-numbing encounter design. If I haven't been clear, I despise this fight. It is by far my least favorite encounter that I've experienced in this game. The bird was unironically so much better. It's a shame, this tier was going so well. Hesperos sets a pretty low bar at least, so P8 will probably make up for it. I really like what I've seen of the door boss so far. Anyway, on to the final test, and I'll see you then. May you be blessed. You know what it was? It was the wine. Good luck charm from Italy, dude. You see? You see? You have the damage. People are fucking retarded every time! Man, why is it so hard? Fuck, oh my god, man. I hate this fucking fight so much. Black Mage on this fight sounds oh my fucking god, man. Okay, well, people seem to enjoy it at least. Whatever, it's good for morale.